Hey, how's everyone doing? My name is Nick Baldwin, and we are here with a live version of the Anti-Influencer. My co-host, Stacey Sauls, is with us as well. Say hey, Stacey.
Hey guys, so excited to be live. This is the first time we've ever done this. I'm
Yeah, and
really
it's the first time we're using StreamYard as a webinar platform. So if there's any hiccups, it's because it's a new platform for us. So bear with us. We're going to introduce our guests in just a second. But for those of you who are tuning into the Anti-Influencer podcast for the very first time, the Anti-Influencer came from my disdain for the entrepreneur Instagram millionaire, quote unquote, right? Like the ones on social media who do it simply for self gratification. There's no authenticity. And so we want to spotlight people who aren't necessarily taking advantage of the spotlight. And if they are, they're taking advantage of it in a very authentic way, and they're doing it for you and not for them. They're not doing it for self gratification. They're doing it to help others.
Well, the reason I love this guest and wanted to go live with her today is because when you hear anti-influencer, you have some kind of idea about what that is, right? And the fact of the matter is she is an influencer. However, she did it the right way. She grew it organically. She has the best intentions. She helps agents nationwide, probably worldwide, with growing their business. And she's just the right kind of person that, we wanted to interview today. Super excited.
Yeah, and also, guys, I'm going to drop in the chat here. If you haven't seen the other episodes of the Anti-Influencer, there is the link in the chat. So either click it or copy and paste it and watch the other 5 episodes that we've already recorded. We got some great guests on those as well. So let's get started. Our guest today is Taley Hunt, and she is, I like to call her the accidental influencer because she kind of fell into her Instagram stardom, but it didn't start that way. It didn't start, with a purpose to grow her following. And she's just 4 years in the business. And in her first year in real estate in a brand new market, she sold 28 homes. And then last year, her third year in the business, she did 143. And that's all by herself. And her Instagram grew kind of by her just being her authentic self. We'll say hi to everyone. Thanks for being here, Taley.
Hi, guys. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. So that's the only agent you need to know in Columbia, South Carolina is me.
There
Send
you
me
go.
all of your referrals. I appreciate that.
So tell us about, and you have 40,000 followers on Instagram, but that started before your Instagram started before your real estate career, right?
So I use my Instagram for personal reasons. I'm 28 for reference, and I had an Instagram at the age of like 15. So I had an Instagram for years. I wasn't ever using it for any sort of marketing. It was just my personal page, and I think at the time I maybe had like 2,000 followers. Just from people I had accumulated over college and all that good stuff. And so when I got my license, I just started talking about real estate on my Instagram instead of just personal stuff.
Okay, so what were you doing first on Instagram? Well, not when you were 15. Like when you were probably just goofing off. But when you grew up and you got married and had babies, and so what you were saying before when we were talking to you in our pre-interview was that women were taking to you because you were so authentic and transparent about being pregnant, right?
Yeah, so my story is that I moved to a new state and started working there after finishing up with my master's in business, and I didn't know anyone. Um, so we were in the middle of the pandemic, so I thought the best way to use my time, I guess, is to get on social media and try to lead generate. And I found out I was pregnant on the day of my real estate exam, so it kind of threw my entire thought process for a loop.
Yeah.
So then I just started sharing the journey. So I would like take photos, waddling through houses, doing tours. And I would, after I had my baby, I would take pictures of like her in her little carrier sitting on my desk with me working. Or I would do Instagram reels, and I would have her strapped to my chest in a little carrier. And so I would always just let people see how big, motherhood was in terms of like how much impact it had on my life. And I shared a lot about like taking my little assistant with me to showings today, and this is how I'm figuring it out, and I have no childcare. And so I think it was, I think it was after I sold so many houses, and people were like, "How did you do this?" It's the combination of you didn't know anybody because you moved to a new state and you had a baby and you never took a maternity leave. Like, how in the world did you do this? And so,
well, I have a quick question. You found out you were pregnant the day you were taking your real estate exam. How did that affect? I mean, clearly you passed, but did you pass on the first time?
I passed that day. So,
wow, how did you compartmentalize that? Seriously.
I don't know, because I took the test. I took the pregnancy test before I took the
Why would you do that?
Oh my gosh! Because I'm an
maybe
idiot.
it gave you motivation to pass.
It was so. So I was not married. We were engaged, and I was. You guys, I was raised Southern Baptist, like a church on every corner. So when I called my mom, I didn't even like give her any time. I just said, "Mom, I'm pregnant," and she said, "I just spent $3,000 on a wedding dress. You're not even going to be able to fit in it." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna pass my real estate exam and sell a house. We'll be okay."
So that was a fun response, though.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to. I just wanted to be able to tell them like it's okay that I'm pregnant and don't have a job. I just passed my real estate exam. We'll figure it out.
There you go. Perfect.
And how many times do people let excuses get in the way, right? Like, oh, I'm pregnant or my kids are little. I can't do this. And you just showcased it to the world that, yeah, it can be done. And all those are just excuses.
Yes, I hear that a lot. People say, well, I try to be careful because I know everybody has like postpartum anxiety and depression, and it can be debilitating. And I'm not saying it was very healthy either, that I never took a maternity leave and that I was working 2 days after I gave birth. But I was so motivated that I didn't care. Like the ball had started rolling, and I had started to see a couple clients, and I was like, if I stop now, it's going to pause all the momentum that I have. So I just had to keep going. So it was early mornings, late nights, in between nap time.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we are in an industry where, you work for yourself. Granted, I mean, we make our own schedules, but granted, really, it's the schedule of our clients when it comes down to it in some instances. But I think, you weren't working a salaried position. If you were working a salaried position, you'd be able to take leave and you'd still get paid. This is like, if you don't lead generate or if you don't work, you don't get paid. So you were doing it for your baby, clearly, you know what I mean? So I don't think that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
So did your goals change from the time you were in licensing class to that moment that you found out?
Yeah, so I was never confident. I never thought I'm going to crush this. Like I never ever thought that. I thought there's no way I'm going to do this. I applied for jobs for the first 4 months. I almost took a job making like 30 grand a year because I was like, at least I'll have something that's guaranteed. And when I started, I met with my productivity coach at KW, and he said, "What is your goal?" And I said, "I just want to sell enough houses to match my husband's salary." So for me, that was 10 or 12 houses, and it felt like a mountain.
You doubled it.
I was like, I'm never like, who is going to hire me? I don't even know one person here.
Did you own a home?
Yeah, we had just purchased our first home. Yeah, but we were broke, like dead. You think you can buy a house and then you get in the house and you realize you've got to pay all this money for furniture, and we were dead broke. I mean, I remember paying. So the timeline here was that I started working in October, and then I remember paying my NAR dues in December and like crying because I was like, I have no money to pay this. And then I had my first closing in February. Wow, so it 100% changed because I just wanted to sell 10 houses. And I said, my husband's in the Army. I said, we'll just PCS and I'll go from duty station to duty station and sell 10 houses. And then the first year I sold 28. And even then we were thinking, should we PCS because your marketplace is about to open? Should we try to move away? But the next year when I sold 86 houses, it was like, absolutely not. We're not leaving.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. So how old were you when you got into real estate?
24.
You were 24. You sold 28 homes. Where did those 28 deals come from at the age of 24?
The first one was an agent referral.
Well, we
And
don't have to go through all 28 specifically, but like,
I
well,
remember them.
number 15 was
no, but it shows the trickle. So like the first one was an agent referral, but then that
yeah.
person, that client sent me their friend. And then that just
Okay.
kept happening.
Oh,
So I would find people on Facebook and they would hire me and then they would send me their friend. Or I would find an agent who needed someone in Columbia and they would give me the referral and then that referral would send me their friend. So it was a combination of Facebook, Instagram, and then people who I was working with sending me their friends.
okay.
So everybody's going to ask, how did you get the business? How did they keep sending? What were you doing
Yeah.
that was making that repeat business come back?
I just did whatever they wanted me to do. I answered the phone all the time. I went above and beyond. I did literally everything I knew to do to make them love me. I was just constantly almost like I wouldn't call it a doormat, but whatever they needed, I just was there. And I just did everything I could and made them fall in love with me. And I would try to become friends with them. And a lot of them were, so let's just say I was working with a family. I would work with the mom of the family a lot, and they would see me working like with my baby in tow. And I think they felt very inspired, and they were like, wow, this is awesome. She just had a baby and she's working for me. She's going above and beyond. Let me tell my friends about her.
So it just kind of was a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would change about that first year, about answering the phone all the time, making them love you?
No. Do I think it's a good habit to get into to just talk to your clients at 9 o'clock at night when they need you? No. But I think that the little things that I did gave me a really solid foundation and core group of clients who still recommend me to this day. Like these people that I helped, I'm currently selling their houses and helping them buy other houses. So
yeah. So you a lot of people say above and beyond, but you did in the sense that you answered your phone, you would talk to them at 9-10 o'clock at night if you needed to. You would and then you put them first and foremost. I mean, clearly, other than your family, but like you just were there for them when they needed you. And do you think that if you were starting over today, you would have been that, like you said, like that kind of doormat where like you were always at the ready? Would you still go about it that way if you got into it now?
100%. 100%. Because I think that you don't always have to live like that, right? Now I have leverage in my life. I don't have to live like that today.
Right.
But because I worked my tail off for 3 years, I now have the luxury of not having to be that way. I now can be picky with who I work with.
Yeah.
But at the time, I just wanted any business that I could get.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to go through that grunt season, right? Like you have to
pay your dues.
You did not have to do that.
You said this in our pre-interview. I mean, you must have said it 4 or 5 times. You said you have to earn the right to do this. You have to earn the right to do that. That's what I love about how you've grown your business, because what you're saying is you did all of this so you could earn the right to have leverage in your life. I love it.
Right. And for me, it was being overprotective of my business. And Stacey, I've heard you say this before. I think you have to have a little bit of fear that the business is going to go away.
Always.
You have to be a little scared that the market is going to shift, that something's going to happen, that you're never going to get another client. And so I still to this day run my business like that, where we've always got to give the best level of service, because what if we never get another deal? And this person is the person that could give us the referral that we need. Yeah. And so, no, I'm not a doormat. I have learned how to have boundaries, but I still run my business in a way that is very client and service focused.
Yeah, I love it. So when did the Instagram really start to take off?
I think I got my first client from Instagram probably about 9 months in, but I had a different method than what most people say. I would get into Facebook groups and provide value. And when people would ask, about home buying, I would say, here's the answer to my question. Oh, and you can go follow me on Instagram. I teach so much on there. And I use that as a reference, almost like look at this news article, but instead it's my Instagram. And so it's not that I would get a bunch of organic business from Instagram. I hear my daughter running down the hallway. She's going to be on this camera in a second. I'm supposed to be watching her. It was that I would direct people there, and then they would build trust with me.
Yeah. Hi. Oh, look at that water.
You're supposed to be with your dad, please.
Wow, you're on TV.
Right now. And so people would build trust with me. So what would happen is I would get people that would say, I've been following your Instagram for months. And
so you would direct them to your Instagram. They liked your content because it was relatable, and it started to grow from there.
Yes, that's right. People would think it was relatable, and then they would learn. And this is very much how I showed up there. Just like this, they would learn from me, and they would believe that I could help them. And so when they did hire me, they trusted everything I said because I had already built that trust.
What's your daughter's name?
Reese.
Oh, that's such a cool name.
Hi, Reese. See, all that completely authentic. Like you don't hide from it, right? I feel like when I was new in the business, I would lock the door and you would just hear, kids like, mommy. I'm like, no, you just welcomed it and it gives off such a good vibe.
Oh, but I'm in the background. I'm texting my husband like, please come get her.
No, people love it. Like this is what they need to see.
Yeah, it was hard though, because I remember the first year I was like exhausted and tired. And I remember being on a really important call and my daughter was like screaming in the background, and it was just a lot and it was very overwhelming. So I tell people that even though it worked for me, I understand why you wouldn't want to, because it was just exhausting. But I feel like that everything kind of worked in tandem and it wasn't something that I was trying to do on purpose. I was just being who I was. I was just being an exhausted working mom and showcasing that. And I think people really liked it.
Yeah, so let's talk about year 2, you did 86 deals. And when did you hire your first, you hired your admin first?
I hired a babysitter.
Okay.
And then I hired a babysitter for 6 hours a day.
That's a good hire.
And then I hired a transaction coordinator who worked per file. And I would try to do everything I possibly could within those 6 hours. And then I hired an admin who kind of did a little bit of everything. Like sometimes she would go open doors for me if I needed her to. She would work in my CRM. She would do just a little bit of everything. And then my next hire after that was a showing partner.
It's the new MREA model. Level 1, hire a babysitter. And what percentage of your business now is agent referrals, and what percent is, I guess, your past clients sending you babies?
So last year I closed 36% of my business was agent referrals. I made $350,000 in GCI last year just from agent referrals.
Wow.
And then of the 140 something that I did, a little over 75 of those were past clients referring me to people that they knew.
Okay, so let's get into that's a huge amount of past clients referring people to you. So how do you keep top of mind with your clients? What do you do?
I stay in touch with them all the time. We do newsletters, giveaways, events. I personally reach out, happy birthday, home anniversary, and none of it is automated. The only thing that is not a personal touch is when we do our newsletters. Mm-hmm. Because it's an email, right? But otherwise, it's all me staying in contact with people and checking in on them regularly.
Is there a system that kind of tells you who to call that day?
Yeah, I use DTD2.
Okay.
Yeah, which is if you're watching and you don't know what that is, it's the system where by last name, you know who to talk to that week, and it ensures that you talk to everybody at least once a quarter.
And so are they always phone calls? Are there text messages?
Absolutely not. They're always text messages. I don't have time to talk. They don't have
Oh
time
my gosh, right? Yeah. Okay, so text messages are okay.
100%, because people are working, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
we all know that. And so most people now don't want to get phone calls anyway. They're like, if you can
Yeah.
text me, if it's textable, text me.
So
That's how
what
I
would you say to somebody like once a quarter, because what's like a normal text to a client?
My rule of thumb is whatever you would say to them if you saw them at the grocery store. How are you? How are your kids? It's so good to talk to you. If they've just closed, it's have you guys settled in really well?
Yeah.
Or if it's been 2 years since they bought, it's are you still enjoying the house versus like how are you liking it now? It is small talk, and sometimes we have excuses to text them. So if it's around the time of our giveaway, I'll say, don't forget, we're doing this giveaway here, make sure you submit your what you call it. And then we go to we just get off on a tangent talking, and they mention everything in the world. Like the other day I texted someone and said, hey, I'm just checking in on y'all, how are things going? And she sent me a picture of her newborn baby and said, well, my baby came a month early. And so then you get to learn about what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Because you're checking in on them, otherwise you would have no idea.
I love it.
What about agent referrals? Do you do the same kind of method?
No, I would say that I used to, but at this point, it's when you're talking to over 300 past clients, you really don't have the time to do that with agents. But I make a strategic effort to, when I go out like to conferences, I make sure that I'm meeting as many people as I can, and that we're exchanging information and following each other on Facebook. But the thing about me, I would say, is that because I've kind of become this person that agents follow online, all the heavy lifting for agent referrals was done up front. And so today it's more passive because I'm constantly in front of agents.
Right.
I would say at least once a week I get a phone call with an agent referral. Last year I got over 100 agent referrals.
And that's huge.
Yeah, and you're also always coming from contribution, right? Like you weren't saying, hey, Nick, hey, Stacey, let me on this podcast thing you're doing. Like we were like, please help us. We need you on here. We need to share your story. So everything you're saying is helping somebody out there, and they're going to remember that, and they're going to make sure they send their clients to you.
Yes. So I've actually had agents send me business. And then after they've sent me business, we've had a phone call to recap like how the transaction went. And they've said, and oh my God, how are you selling so many houses? And I'm like, we can jump on a call anytime and I'll help you because you sent me business, right? And then at the end of last year, every single person who sent me a referral, I sent them a free training that I had created and said, hey, I don't know if you need this, but I so appreciate you sending me business. I've created this. Please take a look at it. If you want it, here's a free code.
I do want to talk about that. I think everyone needs to know. Tell us about your training program.
So I have a few different ones, but one of them is a mom's group coaching program. We meet every Friday at 11:30 for 30 minutes. It's a new topic every single time. It's a live Zoom that's recorded so that you can watch it later on.
And that's not necessarily only for real estate agents.
No, it is. It's for moms in real estate.
Oh, moms in real estate. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
It's a moms in real estate coaching program.
Okay.
And then I created a course. I started to get a lot of people who were kind of like flabbergasted. They didn't understand how I had sold so many houses, and they really wanted me to teach them. And it became hard to get on a Zoom call with everybody who asked. And so I created a course that teaches everything that I know. And I sell that too for agents who want to learn more.
Where do we go to get that class?
Instagram. I have a free webinar.
Oh, is it in your link tree?
Yeah, if you go to my bio on Instagram, you can click the link, and the only thing on there that is an option, is a free webinar, and you can watch the webinar, and it teaches you about the course.
I'm going to post this in the chat for everyone so they can go and check it out. Here you go, guys. Boom. That's awesome. So I was going to ask you, what was I going to ask you? I had something I was going to ask, and then we got sidetracked about.
And by the way, viewers,
I figured it out.
If you have something, if anybody has a pressing question, put it in that chat. We see
drop us in the chat if you have a question or comment. What I was going to ask you was, okay, so you pivoted your Instagram. Your Instagram is all towards agents, very agent centric. So with 40,000 followers, there's another way that you get referrals, I would assume.
Yeah, I would say that that's part of it. I recently had it's funny because I recently had a referral sent to me and they had their own lender. And then whenever we executed the contract, I hadn't spoken to the lender or the processor or something. We executed a contract really fast. And I sent over the contract to the lender, or my TC did, and he sent me a DM and he said, "Oh my God, I just got a contract from Taley Hunt. Like, I follow you on Instagram and I just got a contract with your name on it." And so it's pretty cool how I get connected to all these people and I don't know them. My Instagram was not always agent centered. It was very much buyer and seller centered for years. But then
Right.
I started like going around from office to office teaching across the country, or I would sit on a panel at a conference. And so people would follow me. And at some point, it became totally imbalanced. It was just a bunch of agents and then some people who were local. But I still get clients from my Instagram. And I think it's because they kind of look at me as like, wow, she must know what she's doing, if she's teaching
Just a
agents.
little bit. Yeah.
So this course you made is free?
No, it's not. The webinar that you watch to learn about it's free, but the course is not free.
Okay, where do I get the course though?
At the end of the webinar.
Oh, got it.
Yep, at the end of
Okay.
the webinar.
So I watch the webinar and then I can register for the course. Got it.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
so someone's asking, do you only use TDT2D2? Sounds like I always feel like it's like a Star Wars
D2
reference.
for password.
It's like a robot in Star Wars for your past clients, but you're all organic. All of your business is organic.
Yeah, so if you were to look into my CRM, you would see a ton of contacts, but I would say 95% of them are people that I've actually worked with. So there's not a lot of not mits. Like, there's not a lot of people in there that are just random. So almost my entire database gets thrown on the DTD2. But also because I have so many past clients, I really cannot handle doing anything other than just
Right.
that. Because it's
Like
so
you don't need another stream of leads because you
right.
have them. All right, so you hired a buyer agent, and one of the questions, one of the things we talked about last week before we got on this webinar was how do you scale this type of business, right? Like it's very hard to teach authenticity on social media. It's very hard to teach what you are doing because a lot of times it's just from the heart, and so many people are not able to do that. So you hired a buyer agent, you're training her to do what you're doing. How are you training her? What are you teaching her?
So it's all personal to her. Whenever I brought
Well,
her
right.
on,
Yeah.
I said, "What do you want to do? Why do you want to be a real estate agent? What are you passionate about?" And she is Hispanic, and her whole thing is, "I want to help Hispanic people become homeowners." That's what she's passionate about. So she loves working with Spanish speaking clients because she's
Mhm.
fluent as well. And I said, "Okay, well, how do we create community around that?" And that's always my thing: create community, be a connector, provide value, and people will see that as your brand. So oftentimes I will have somebody post on a Facebook group maybe and say, "Do you have a real estate agent recommendation?" And there are people that will recommend me that have never even used me, because they'll say things like, "I've never hired her because I've never had the opportunity to, but when I have the opportunity to, I am, because she just is constantly doing things for the community." And so I said to my buyer's agent, "What can you do to build your brand around, like, this is your mission?" So one thing I taught her was create a Facebook group and build it up. And she has a Latinas in Colombia group, and it has over 4,000 members in it right now. And she hosts events within that group. She stays involved with them. She creates relationships, and they look at her as like the go-to, because she's been this connector of all these women. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. So it is scalable as if you know how to coach to it and you
So,
can do
yeah,
your own thing.
what's next for you?
I don't know. I don't know. It gets so overwhelming. So I have always had a big goal. I haven't even said this online yet. So just
Time
crazy.
alive.
I've always had these big goals of like, this is how many houses I want to sell, right? So the year I did 28, my goal was 10. And then the next year I wanted to sell 40, and I did that. And so last year I said, I want to sell 100 houses. And I started this hashtag Taley Sells 100, and I would update everybody as it went through. And then at the end of the year, people came to me and they were like, well, what's your goal? Almost as it was like an expectation of I want to follow. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, well, we're going to sell 200 houses. And now I'm like kicking myself for doing that, because in hindsight, you don't realize that when you're growing a brand and you're growing a business and you're bringing on people, you're going to have to slow down to speed up. And so it
Yep.
had
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
gotten to the point to where mentally, like my mental health was not great, because
Mhm.
I was constantly like, are we going to hit our number? Are we going to hit our number? What can we do to be better? What can we do to be better for our clients and get more referrals? And I'm not doing enough, even though I'm, currently between me and her, we're at like 73 or something.
Right.
And so by most standards, that's great. But because I had clung to this number. So I actually just talked to my coach this morning and I said, I'm done with it. I can't do it. We're on track, but I can't continue to do that. Like, I have to put the business and my mental health first. And so right now we're kind of in this gray area of, if we hit it, we hit it. If we don't, we don't. For us, our focus is more, are we making the impact that we want? Are we getting the profit that we want? We're thinking of it as a business instead of like a
Mhm.
game. And so we're really focused on building from the inside so that we can do more on the outside. So it's structuring the team the way we want it to be structured, and just getting all the systems and processes that we really need in place so that we can do really good work in the community.
I love that. I love that you said that about, putting basically like putting profitability first. I mean, as long as, you hit your profit goal, you want to sell 200 homes. If you sell 150, still great, as long as, as long as your mental health is right and you're not feeling overwhelmed. And what do you do because I feel like, look, selling 140 plus homes by yourself, that was before you had a buyer agent, can be very overwhelming. How did you deal with that anxiety? Because I'm sure there was a lot of it.
I go to the spa.
Okay. All right.
Go to the spa every quarter. I actually go to Charlotte, and I go to the Valentine, and I spend an entire weekend at a spa. And I go by myself, and I just sit in my robe and go shopping, and I do whatever I want to do. And that's how I deal with it. And I wasn't doing that until the end of last year. Actually, our market center administrator looked at me and she was like, you don't do anything for yourself. You work 24/7. So I'm going to go above you, and I'm going to go talk to your husband, and he's going to do something to make you relax. Because if you don't, you're going to spiral. And she was so right, because it is a lot. Like, even though I had a TC, even though I had an assistant, it was just exhausting. And I'm glad I did it, because I feel like I've proved myself to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I can do the hard things. I know that I can. Now that I know that I can, I have to decide, do I want to? Do
I
I really
love
want
that.
to?
I love that.
I'm
Hey, I
gonna
just want everyone to know real quick. If you jumped on late, um, there was a couple questions in the chat that when this webinar ends, this is what's so cool about StreamYard. When this webinar ends, if you registered, which many of you who are on StreamYard with us did, you will receive an email with a link to watch the replay automatically. Boom. I don't even have to do it. That's how,
Ciao.
yep. So
So,
don't worry about that.
since we have you live, I'm gonna put you on the spot just a little bit, not a lot, because I love you. What's your biggest fear with your business?
Um, I would say that, okay, so we're all human, right? And when you are juggling a bunch of deals at one time, things are bound to fall through the cracks sometimes, right? So I think my biggest fear, which I've always had this fear, I think it's anxiety, is that someone will not be happy with our service, and then they will just go and like slander us all over the internet. I get very, very, very nervous about that. I am always terrified. So we overcompensate by going above and beyond to make sure that that doesn't happen. But of course, I mean, the truth is that when you're doing this many deals, everybody just doesn't like you. It's just
Right.
you're not going to be able to please everybody. No matter how tight your systems are, no matter how much you do, there's always going to be people that you've never done enough for them. And so I get very nervous about that. I don't want anybody to, especially when your business is run off of word of mouth, it can
Mhm.
be kind of detrimental. So I get nervous about that a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's nothing, listen, nobody's perfect. There's nothing, like you said, not everyone is going to love you,
Right. Right.
right?
Even when you do your best, I mean, and we've just had to come to terms with that. It's not anything that happens often, but sometimes you just get those clients that are just
Right.
tough. And it's like no matter what you do, but we do everything we can to be really, really good and on top of stuff. Training is super important to us. Having systems and processes to mitigate that risk of like people being unhappy is super important to us. I would
Mhm.
say that makes me nervous, as well as um, just the fear that the business stops or the market shifts, or that, I don't know. I work with a lot of military families. And so, what if the Army decides to pick up and move Fort Jackson to another state, and it totally shifts it? Not that think these things are like plausible, but just kind of
Yeah.
goes through your head as a business owner. I would say you think about all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally normal. I'm glad that you said that because a lot of top agents just, they wouldn't admit that, you know,
Mhm.
they wouldn't
Well,
do that. Well,
I
thanks.
I feel like anybody who doesn't I feel like anybody who says they're not worried about it is a liar. Like everybody is. It doesn't matter how much business you do, you you always have the same anxiety. I've heard people say, doesn't matter how much money you make, you're always going to have problems. The more money you make, they're just more expensive, right? Like it just
Right.
feels more. So for me, whether I'm selling 10 houses a year or 100 houses a year, I still have the same fear of what if the business never comes? And I
Mhm.
think that's what has motivated me. I never stop lead generating. Like I make it a priority, because if I don't lead generate and I don't have business, then my business is going to slow down. And I
Right.
think a
Yeah.
lot of agents, they get a couple deals and they feel busy and they feel like I don't have to do this because I have 3 deals under contract right now. And then that
Mhm.
last one closes and you're like, oh crap, I don't have any more business. And so I think it's good to have a little bit of like fear. This should be fun. It's our career. We have a choice to do this. But if you're not a little bit nervous, you're not a business owner. It's a hobby, in my opinion.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I
Make
love
a
that. So
thing.
there's one question Bobby is asking what system you use that makes you feel makes you have the most impact. Makes you feel, oh my God, I can't even read or talk today.
Feel like you have the most impact. I'm only
What
laughing because
system do you use that you feel makes the most impact on your
that's
business?
my director of operations.
Oh, it is? All right, cool.
So I love that
The
system.
100%, it is the DTD2, because it's the most personalized thing I do.
Good to hear.
I could automate everything except for that. And I won't automate it because I think it's what gets me business too. Because
Yeah. Mhm.
3 years ago, you closed on a house with me and I haven't forgotten about you. So
But
100%.
you do, but I want people to understand, like, while she doesn't automate the calls and the texts and things like that, she does have programs that tell her when to make these calls. Like someone's birthday is today, someone's home anniversary is today. Like that stuff is okay to have those task reminders pop up. You know what
Yeah,
I
because
mean?
I would never remember. I have no memory, period. When I talk
Yeah.
to my TC, this sounds terrible. When I talk to my TC, she'll say, I'm about to ask you a question about this person, and the house they're buying is this one." Because I have to have the connecting. Like I have to have somebody put it right in front of me, because I can't remember. And I don't know if it's like mom brain or just being overloaded for the past 4 years. So I could not remember any of this without those systems in place that make it
Mm.
automated for me. But the actual act of it, like you said, is me. And I think that's what makes it so impactful, because I'm not having a robot ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Here's another question from Paul. What is the daily plan in terms of lead gen to accomplish this kind of increase? Did you shift to calling, marketing, social posts, mailing to your SOI? What does your daily lead gen look like?
So I would say the biggest jump that I did was from year 1 to year 2. And for me, the shift was actually having a plan around being involved with my SOI. So I started listing houses that I didn't help people buy. And I was like, wonder why these people aren't calling their agents that help them buy.
Mm-hmm.
I realized people don't stay in touch with their past clients and people forget about their agents because of it. And I said, I never want that to be me. So I started putting plans in place where the DTD2, like keep in touch with people. I started hosting events. So I just made an intentional effort to stay around and keep top of mind. And because I did that, those people sent me more business, but also agent referrals. I got more of them in year 2 than I did in year 1. And I think those are just like, the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
I think they're awesome.
I love it. Well, this has been so cool and fun. You make it sound so easy.
It is. Nick, it's easy. The hard part is doing the work. And that's why most people don't succeed. Nothing that I teach, nothing that I do is hard. Nothing that I do is hard, period.
You just got to do it. Call people, post on social media, appreciate your clients. One more question from Jesse Robinson. What client events are big hits for your people?
We do a summer bash every summer, food trucks, inflatables.
Now, not everybody has the funds to do something that huge, but you can do small things like
right. It's not as expensive as you would think. You can have a lender, a title company help sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
You can get with local businesses and ask them if they want to come out and set up a table and sponsor your event. And there are also vendors that will partner with you to be able to get exposure to, right? Like, I don't think anybody's going to do anything for free, but people will donate to a cause. And for us, it is a little bit more pricier because we're inviting so many people. But if you're a newer agent, if you've closed an average number of deals every year, let's say you invite 50 people, they're not all going to show up. So a Kona ice truck with ices is like $250 for 50 cups of ices. So any attorney or title company or inspector that you use, they are going to be willing to contribute if they want your business. Somebody will. So you don't have to pay for it all out of pocket.
Love it. Well, this has been super awesome. I love everything that you said. I think you have an incredible business. It's so like real, you know what I mean? And you talk about it so like you can tell she's like, a lot of people you can talk to, not a lot of people, but some people you talk to, and it just it doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about what makes you nervous, what makes you overwhelmed, what worries you, and then how you succeed at the same time. So I think that that's cool, and I think more people should take notice of that.
Influencer. It's more authentic influencer, which is what we need more of. So
love it.
Right. I think there are a lot of agents out there that, get on stages or get on Instagram and they say they've built their business one way, but that's not really how they've done it. And I think it's very like see-through, I think when you are, and I think it's the same thing in your real estate business. When you show up authentically and you are who you are, the right people will find you and hire you because of it.
Love it. Well, thanks, Taley, and go follow her. You can just look her up on how many Taleys are there.
Yeah. How do you want us to send you referrals? What's your best way to get you?
My Instagram is Taley Hunt. So you can follow me there. And I post videos almost every day, lots of agent tips. I have a free webinar, of course. You can find me on Facebook under my name, Taley Hunt, as well. And I will take all of your referrals. Happy to do that.
Yay. Thank you, guys. And also make sure you watch the other episodes of The Anti-Influencer. They're on YouTube. Go leave a like, leave a comment to support the show. And this was fun to do live. Usually they're recorded, but this was fun to do live. I loved it.
Pretty cool.
All right, everybody.
Bye,
See you next time.
Thank you.